What is going on, SHIPIT Nation YouTube station? We are back with another edition of the MLB show. It's me, your boy Ham. I got my guy G Rising with me today. Nate said, hey, you know what? I'm going to go to the Brew Crew opener tonight. So that's where Nades is. G Rising, appreciate you filling in for Nades. But man, G Rising, it's been a while since you've been on the show. How's your day going? How's your MLB season going so far? What's going on, my man?
Man, not too bad. My man Nade's there. He probably wanted to stay home. They're getting their ass whooped 11-1, Ham. Man, is it the Dodgers pitching or the Yankees bats, or was it the Brew Crew's pitching just sucked?
I was going to say, you can't blame the bats today.
It wasn't the bats, Ham. It's the Brew Crew pitching just sucked. Royals just threw up 11 on them. So, so far baseball's fun. Hey, I'm glad it's back. Good to see it back. You know, we got a little bit of a little bit of changes here this season that we're going to get to talk about today. We got 2 new parks in play. So we got that today going. You know, obviously Tampa playing down there in George Steinbrenner Field down there in Tampa. I drove by that dump of a stadium, Tropicana Field, without its roof on it here about a week ago. And, that was quite the sight. I kind of giggled about that. It just looks like a big ass eyesore right in the middle of Tampa over there, Ham. It didn't look too good, but I can't complain. Hey, I've been over there in the FanDuel streets doing pretty good. Can't complain there. Been close to the top. Haven't got there quite yet. Hey, I'm sniffing it though. I've been on it. Jumped on them Yankees there that few days there. Figured right after I thought, I don't want to go back to them. Thinking, hell yeah, I go back to them. They said 9 bombs yesterday. How do you not go back to them? Then they hit 5 the next day. Of course, Jazz is on fire. Everybody's complaining about them stinking new bats they have, but I don't really think that has too much to do with it. I think it's a little overblown, but hey, you never know. We're going to have to see about that. But we've been through that in the past before with like humidors and little changes and stuff like that. Now here's a bat kind of in play. We're going to have to see what teams, if it is, maybe it is something that we got to pay attention to, Ham. When we start paying attention, these teams are going to start rolling with these big old fat bats they got here in the handles. We might have to start thinking about it a little bit. But, man, everything's been good. Glad to be on the show back with you guys here, everybody. Get to see everybody. Get to talk some shit, have some fun, talk some baseball. Man, you can't get any better than that, Ham. But, filling in for Nades. Like I said, man, he's going to come home. He'll probably be feeling pretty good. I'm sure he's going to have him some tasty adult beverages here this afternoon.
Nate's been crushing it in MLB streets. Hopefully he's having a better day than the Brewers. Then, we got the old Sacramento A's, G Rising, that are opening up their new stadium, or not their new stadium, but A Stadium tonight.
Yeah, it's funny on FanDuel it says ATH. I was like, when I was first looking, I'm like, who the hell is ATH? I'm like, I'm thinking, all right, I guess that must be something to do with, athletics or something, I would assume. They just don't have the OAK there anymore. I mean, I don't know. They just going with the athletics, I guess, Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to do it like we normally do. Go 8K and above for pitchers. It's a bad pitching slate. We talked a little bit about it pre-show, G Rising. So you got your work cut out for you. 8K, that would be Emerson Hancock all the way up to Tyler Glasnow, who's going to be very popular on today's slate. Talk me through who the best couple pitchers are out of this group. Then we'll go 8K and below.
Yeah, I mean, you could start with Hancock there against the Tigers. His low strikeout rate isn't going to get me anywhere near any top of any kind of tournaments here today. So I'm not really looking at Hancock there. I'll skip out on him. So moving on up there, though, I think, really today we don't have that many options as we're going to see moving up here. Francis, for me, I don't really like attacking Washington, especially with strikeouts there. Francis, for me, just isn't. I think people are going to go to him, but I'm just not buying it. Rasmussen, I think, is going to be pretty chalky, especially on FanDuel. He's only 8K. Look pretty good, high strikeout rate. I think Rasmussen is going to be somebody that he's probably the SP2 on both sites, obviously with Glasnow up there at the top. We'll get to in a minute. But Rasmussen, I think, has got a pretty decent matchup here. I think that's somebody that I might be looking at, especially if you want to look at some Dodger bats, Dodger stack. I think, especially over there on FanDuel, he'll help you out, get there to where you need to be. And then, moving up there, Jackson Jobe, I think I'm a Tiger fan and all. I really think they're going to be careful with him. Man, but this kid's got all the talent in the world. He's obviously, if you're paying attention to the prospects, he's, top pitching prospect in baseball. Kid's got some nasty stuff, but, you look at Seattle's numbers. Now, I think all season, Seattle's going to be a team that we're going to want to go after him, especially on the strikeouts, especially to a good right-handed pitcher. So, man, I just wish I'd have seen Job a couple more times. But he is starting out the gate with a pretty good matchup. I'm not happy at that 8,800 price on DK. I just think, if he was around maybe 7K, 75, I think it would be a much better play. But, man, being the third highest pitcher and me having to pass by Rasmussen is going to be pretty tough. I wish I'd seen him a little bit more. But, he did go 3 solid innings here his last start there in spring training, which I think is interesting. But, man, like I said, Seattle's definitely a team. I was just checking it out. I think they're averaging already 10 or 11 Ks so far on the season here. I think they got 41 Ks in 4 games. So, they're averaging basically 10 Ks a game. Can we squeeze 5 or 6 out of Job? I think instead of playing him in DFS, I think I'd just rather bet on his strikeout prop than go there, Ham. So, Blanco, man, it's just another team I just don't really like attacking with San Francisco. I think that's good. That would be a tough one for me, but we really don't have too many options here today. I guess he's a better real life pitcher than he is for DFS. I just not really too enamored with him. 24% K rate, 10% walk rate. Not bad, but for DFS purposes, not the greatest. Obviously, Glasnow is the SP1, 32% strikeout rate. The Braves, I'm not afraid of that Braves lineup as far as strikeouts go. I think they're like 6th or 7th in baseball up to this point. Did struggle a little bit last year. So I don't mind Glasnow here. But, if you've been on Glasnow in the past, we know how he is. Sometimes he can be, he can get beat up a little bit. But for sure, he's definitely the SP1 on both sides. You're going to pay up for him a little bit. I do expect him to be fairly chalky here against Atlanta. But yeah, really not too many options here, Ham. We only got I would say really 2 that I'd look at above 8K, and we'll just go with Glasnow and Rasmussen. I think the way to get different today is with bats. I think pitching's pretty cut and dry. There's some reaches there if you wanna take them, but as I mentioned, maybe Francis, maybe Blanco. Outside of that, I think Job, like I mentioned, has the talent. I'd just be afraid he's only going to go 3 or 4 innings. They're going to let that bullpen pick it up. But, yeah, so for me, give me Glasnow up on top, and then I'd go with Rasmussen, especially over there on FanDuel.
Yeah, excellent breakdown there. Glasnow for sure is pretty good. And then, yeah, Jackson Job, great player. Yeah, 8,800 though, quite the bit. But you got a great park. You got a great matchup. Excellent breakdown there up there at the top. Let's go 7,800. Tyler Anderson down below all the way to Kyle Hart, not Kevin Hart, but Kyle Hart for the San Diego Padres. Anybody down here DK wise that you're going to be playing as an SP2?
I think I personally no. All my action today really is going to be over on FanDuel. I just didn't like the pitching pool enough to even have enough guys to play 2 pitchers. So, but looking down below here, I do think that Brown is interesting against the A's here today. I think he's going to get some love. I'm not really a fan of that here, but I do think you're going to see some ownership on Mr. Brown here today. His 8 starts last year, he was pretty good up there in the high 20% strikeout range. But the unknown here is on both sides. We got a new park for the A's here, like you mentioned, out in Sacramento. It's basically a minor league park. So I'm going to expect we're going to bump up the bats a little bit from the old Oakland Coliseum. So, the old brain here is going to have to just remember that, Tampa's playing in a new park and so are the A's. The A's aren't playing in a big cesspool anymore. So it's like, okay, what are we going to be looking at here? Some offense potentially. So I think that's something we're going to have to pay attention to. I'm not interested in Michaelis. That guy he's not going to get you anywhere. I think Holmes is interesting against the Dodgers. I think that's somewhere you could go if you really wanted some leverage. I think the Dodgers obviously are going to be really chalky. Holmes looked pretty good last year when he got the ball there, pretty much more of, like a reliever type there. But I think Holmes is a guy that we could look at too if you wanted some pivot off the chalk. It's tough, obviously, going against the Dodgers. But, man, pitching's just tough today. Like I said, if I was on DK, I'd just leave it at Rasmussen and Glasnow and go from there. But FanDuel, I think you can play either one of the two. But I just think there's too many unknowns, too many different, road, I guess, bombs if you want. But I think Glasnow isn't a bad fade today. As I mentioned on the opening day show, Ham, when you got a bunch of really good pitchers, the chances of somebody putting up a really good number at the pitching spot is pretty good. I think today, really the only guy we're going to have to fade that can throw up a pretty good crazy number is probably Glasnow. So, if you want to fade Glasnow, I don't blame you, but I think he's the guy that could definitely put up a pretty big number.
Yeah, I mean, Glasnow is going to be tough to fade. Down here, I can't pronounce his name, but I don't mind playing him. It's the Pittsburgh Pirates pitcher. I don't hate him tonight. I don't know if it's at Mlodzinski. Don't mind Mlodzinski at 6,300 would be my favorite of that bunch. Rank your top three. I mean, I know Glasnow is number one for you. If you had to say 2, 3, would that be Rasmussen? I think I heard you say, and who would be 2 and 3 for you?
Yeah, I'd have to say Rasmussen definitely 2. Man, I mean, for me at 3, I mean, you could go with a handful of guys. Brown, I mean, we didn't talk too much about Hicks, maybe Blanco, and maybe Francis. And then maybe you could throw in somebody like Job if you wanted to. But, man, I just think it's really tough there. So, I mean, Brown, Hicks, Francis, Blanco, I kind of got them all right there at the same, I mean, to me. But I think there's a significant drop from Rasmussen to that bunch there. So, I guess Brown maybe wouldn't be bad just because of with the A's there. But, I mean, the A's have actually been hitting pretty good. But, yeah, like I said, for me, it's pretty easy. 2 pitchers today for me. That's it. I'm not going to try to get too cute.
Yeah, excellent breakdown there. Let's go game by game. We got the first game up. I got the Stone pulled up over here at the Nation. We have a pretty low total. We got the Pirates continuing their Florida trip, taking on this Rays team in that Steinbrenner Stadium that you talked about. Carmen Malinsky taking on Drew Rasmussen. Rays minus 184. Talk to me about this game. Pirates at the Rays.
Yeah, I mean, we're sitting with a game total of 8. Pretty much all the games are sitting at 8 or 8.5, except that Detroit-Seattle game is sitting at a whopping 7. But we do have basic bunch of 8s through the other games we have here on this 8-game slate we have this afternoon or this evening for the main slate. But I mean, the only one here, I mean, Aranda's looks pretty decent, pretty cheap. Both sites, actually. So over there for Tampa, I think he looks interesting. I think this actually Rays stack is kind of interesting. I don't have him up at the top of my favorites, but I did have him up there in the consideration. I don't mind them at all. I wish they were just a little bit more powerful. I just don't like the overall power there, but I think you can use Aranda as a potential one-off. If you want to look at the Pittsburgh side here against Rasmussen, I'm not really interested in attacking that here at this point. But, I mean, obviously we know O'Neill Cruz. He's not bad to look at any point in time. Actually, I think he helped Nades out in that when he shipped the other day. I heard him call out Mr. O'Neill Cruz and did pretty well. I think he had 2 bombs that day. But, yeah, I think for me, I think Tampa's interesting. Like I said, they just don't have enough power for me to put them up at the top. But I think Aranda would definitely be somebody you could use as a one-off.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Not going to be full stacking either one of these teams. Excellent breakdown there. Moving on to the next game, we got Michael Soroka, former Braves great, headed north of the border to take on Bowden Francis. Jays implied to score almost 5 runs. Pretty heavy favorites in this game. Any C.J. Abrams love for you, G. Rising, or any Jays stacks? Talk to me about this game. Nationals at Toronto.
Yeah, I mean, Soroka is definitely somebody I think, maybe we could get after a little bit here. I mean, he's always been known to be a ground ball pitcher. Usually had some decent control. But man, I think adding Santander to the top of that lineup makes them one of the more powerful teams, especially on the slate. Obviously, the Dodgers are going to be up there, but man, I think the J stack is in my top handful of stacks here today. Guerrero, Springer, Bichette, I think are all interesting in play today. So I don't mind the Blue Jays at all. The bottom of that lineup could be a little bit better for me. I think Jimenez at second is a pretty good play today. I think you could stack up pretty much 1 through 6 for the Jays. I don't mind that at all. But as I mentioned, Soraka, a lot of times, sometimes I like to look at the fly ball percentages and kind of maybe target a little bit more fly ball type hitters, especially when, we got a guy that's known for some ground ball. I mean, you look at, so far, we'll look at, last season, ground ball, fly ball percentages. Santander, 33% fly ball. So I think he'd be the guy that I'd probably target the most, especially if I was looking for some one-offs. So do like some Santander today. Abrams, I think, is interesting too. Pretty cheap play there. I mean, in reality, I think you could really look at the Washington stack. I think it's fairly cheap. If you want to go there, you could look at Abrams. You could possibly go Wood. Pretty cheap up at the top. If you want to use them like for a mini stack, I was kind of fooling around with them a little bit. I think you're getting them basically unowned. I think if you use the Dodgers today, I think they would be somebody that I wouldn't mind pairing up with the Dodgers. If you wanted to go there, I think it'll make it a little bit different. Yeah, I think the Nats are interesting, but I think the Jays, I do have them ranked a little higher. But I think if I was going to call like a sneaky low-owned kind of stack, I think the Nats, and I kind of got the A's in the same boat. The Nats and the A's for me were kind of both there. But, yeah, we'll call them my sneaky stack. And I do like some Abrams, especially at that shortstop spot.
Richard thinks Abrams going double down today. So Richard, always in our Discord, always in there. Appreciate you, Richard. Abrams double down call of the day. We heard it here first. Moving on to that next game, we got the aforementioned Tyler Anderson taking on the St. Louis Cardinals, who scored 8 runs before the rain came down yesterday, taking on Miles Mikolas. Low strikeout, 16% at home. Miles Mikolas not very strong. Any love for this game? I like some of these bats, but you love any of these bats? Angels at the Cardinals. Another one of those games around an 8 total. Talk to me about this one.
Yeah, this one's interesting too. I mean, do I get sucked in again? Tyler Anderson sucked during spring training. I mean, he was just bad. But then again, coming in the first damn game, I was thinking Sonny Gray sucked even worse. He was the worst pitcher in all of spring training. He comes out and then, twist one up that day. I mean, he learned how to pitch again, it seemed. It's like, man, you kind of buy into some of that shit, especially, how bad he was, that being Sonny Gray. But here you got Anderson, as I mentioned, not too good, but, you got some guys over there on the other side that did hit lefties pretty well. Contreras isn't too bad. Jordan Walker, Wynn, even Baker there didn't fare too bad. So, I think there's somebody you could look at stacking up as well. I don't have them up that high. I don't, the Cardinals for me are going to have to earn my trust a little bit before I start, keep stacking them up. I just kind of worry about all the power up and down. But yeah, I think I'm just more or less going to kind of leave this one be. I'm not going to use either team here. I don't really want to stack against Mikolas. And I don't really want to stack against Anderson on the other side here. I think Anderson's a decent pitcher, but we'll see what we get. I think there's some better plays there that we could look at. Nothing really jumps out at me on this one.
Yeah, I'm with you there. In the Cardinals Park, I feel like as always you rarely get the winner in there. So I'll probably out on this game as a full stack as well. Moving on to the next game, we have the Giants taking on the Astros. I have some interest in Blanco. I have a ton of interest in this Astros stack, my favorite stack of the night. Talk to me about this game, though. Do you have any love for these Astros? Jordan Hicks, pretty bad this spring, but any love for Giants or the Astros tonight?
I think the Giants are a little bit interesting here against Blanco. I just think for some reason, I got a sneaky feeling that the Giants could be a team that could get you to where you need to be here today. I look at them as another kind of sneaky option, not at the top. I did think that, just kind of playing around with, some of the optimizers, sim sites, the Giants were coming up a few times. So kind of made me dive into it a little bit. I'm not sold on it yet, but it has come up. I know Chapman is somebody that was popping quite a bit in all of my when I was running them. So I think he's interesting as a one-off, especially there at third. But, the Giants, I just know, like I said, I'm not sold on them yet, really, for me. You could look at Fitzgerald Wade up at the top. I think it's fairly cheap. It's a really cheap stack if you want to go there. I think it's kind of something like the Nats for me, Washington for me, where they're just kind of cheap. I think if you wanted to try to get different with some Dodgers, maybe a way to do it. But, it's just – this one here doesn't really get me too either. We do have, like I said, a bunch of 8 games, so it's not like, I just feel as if too when you get the Giants away from home is when you want to play them. I just don't like the matchup with Blanco. I think he's too good of a pitcher.
Yeah, I think Blanco's good. He's got strong K upside, but he also gives up a ton of fly balls. So if you want to go home run hunting, I don't think that's the worst thing there to do. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Make sure you hit that like. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on the way in. The next game up on the slate, we got those Padres, who the pitching has been lights out. Is that good Padres pitching, or is that bad Braves hitting? We'll find out tonight. But you got these Guardians. You got Jose Ramirez. He did leave. I think he left yesterday's game early or the game before that. So he is kind of beat up. But you got the Guardians taking on this Padres team with Tatis, Machado, Jackson Merrill. Any love for anybody in this game? I would have the Padres as my number 2 favorite stack, but what do you say about Guardians or the Fathers?
Well, just kind of looking here, Ortiz, you're not really sure what you're going to get out of him. I'm not sure how long this guy's going to go. And one thing I will not do this season is attack good bullpens. And I'm not interested in going after this Indians bullpen. I'm just going to stay away from any kind of situation like that where that bullpen is going to come into play. I do think, hey, if we could get 6-7 innings out of this Ortiz guy, I think the Padres would be definitely something you could look at. But I'm going to give the utmost respect to that Indians bullpen. I think it's the best in baseball. So I'm a little afraid of it for that reason, and that reason primarily. So I think that one is something that I'm just a little bit more skeptical of. Now, Hart being a left-hander, I think Lane Thomas is interesting here today, especially as a one-off. I really like him. I think he's a guy that, you could go home run hunting. I think he's a guy probably going to hit a home run actually here today. You got Noel also, I think, is somebody you could look at. He's got a pretty high WOBA. Of course, Jose Ramirez, Santana. They're all decent there. The Indians are another team I just wish had a little bit more power. So it's like kind of hard for me to stack. It's like only the top half of that lineup. And we see that quite a bit with some in baseball, you see the top 4 or 5, and then the bottom are like just like road bump junk. You're not going to, I like lineups that, get 7-8 hitters, that look pretty good. I know can turn up a lineup over. We got a bunch of them teams in baseball, but man, it's just hard, especially when you're stacking. When you just look at the bottom part of these teams and they're just so weak. You just think to yourself, man, it's just not good, especially turn over the lineups. But I see my man Pojen asking me if I'm drinking water again today. I do have a water here next to me, but I am going out to dinner. My daughter's got to play soccer. She plays up at the college here, so she's got a game at 8 o'clock. So I can't be the drunk dad up there now. Come on, man. I can't get in no trouble. I probably smell like weed, though. I stand away from everybody, so they can't. They can't smell me. I'll probably burn a fat Jeter on the way, but for a little safety meeting. But Ham. So
you don't want to be that drunk dad that gets thrown out of the game, G-Rising.
Yeah, no. It's like if you smell like booze and alcohol anymore, people look at you more funny than if you smell like weed. Nobody even thinks about it around here in Michigan. Nobody even thinks twice. But and the worst part, Ham, is it's like I don't know if any of y'all have kids that play soccer, but if you don't and you're about to, and you go in one of them little domes, you could say something to the guy next to you and the whole damn place can hear it. So I just let you know it's like amplified by like 20. So if you say the ref fucking sucks, the whole place fucking hears you. So you got to kind of be careful what you say I've got myself in many trouble over the time complaining to another dad or something, and then I'll hear my daughter yell, "Dad!" And I'm like, "Oh, how do they hear me way over there? I'm way over here." But either way, good time.
You know how those kids are. Those kids know more than you do, G. Rising. You know that better than any of them. They know more than what they don't know.
They know. Some things kids do, I like, to me, they don't have a clue. Like, why do they all track each other? If I had a bunch of friends that were tracking me everywhere I go, I'd be telling you I'd need to get a bunch of new friends. Like, I don't need y'all knowing that I went up to wherever, like my daughter, "Oh, my friend's at the dispensary." How do you know she's at the dispensary? I can track her. I'm like, dude, that shit would get on my nerves. Like, I couldn't handle that shit. Damn, I don't know how these young kids do that shit.
Oh, they do. They do a lot of stuff there, G. Rising. But I digress. Moving on to the next game. We got the worst park on the slate, in my opinion, in the Mariners Stadium. Jackson Jobe, we don't know how much he's going to be throwing. Emerson Hancock and his sub 15% K rate at home. I don't think we'll have any interest in either one of these bats, but maybe I'm wrong. Tigers at the Mariners, another super low total, sub 7. Talk to me about this one.
Well, call me a homer, but I think the Tigers are another stack here that you could go after. I mean, we're talking about Emerson. He's not very good. Very low strikeout. He's not going to miss any bats. I think Kerry Carpenter today is going to go dong, ding, dong, dong. Kerry Carpenter. You can almost mark that one down. I'm 1 for 1 in my home run calls. I called Kyle Schwarber the other day. We'll make this one my other official home run call. Kerry Carpenter. Going to smoke one out of here today. I think the Tigers you'll get fairly cheap. I do like the left side of the Tigers. Very interesting for me today. I don't think that Seattle bullpen's all that great either. But, looking at the top of that, Carpenter, Green, Torkelson been hitting the shit out of the ball here recently. So, man, I don't mind this Tiger stack. I think that's another low-owned one. Like, we got a few low-owned teams that I think could stand out today. As I mentioned, the Nats, the A's, and the Tigers, I think, are 3 teams that we could throw on the low-owned that I think are viable here today. But I do like a little bit of the Tigers. Now, Mariners against Jobe. The Tigers bullpen sucked. I'd have to agree with you. But I think the Tigers bullpen, I'm going to give them, they're going to be ready today. I think I'd be surprised if Joe goes any more than 4 innings. But, man, I'm not interested in any of those Mariners bats.
Yeah, obviously you don't want him to go 4 innings. That would not be any good. I wonder what Vegas has him as in terms of total outs. That'd be something I'd be interested to look at because, yesterday DeGrom was 14 and a half outs and he got to 15. So wonder if it's something around there as well. It's something I'll have to check out. But Jackson Jobe's popping over here in our optimals. Excellent breakdown there, G. Rising. We got 2 games left. Appreciate all you've been tuning in. Sacramento, Sacktown's finest, Cubs taking on the Athletics, 8.5 total. Cubbies a little bit favorite. We got the early season MVP favorite, Kyle Tucker, just been balling out of control per usual, taking on Joey Estes in his 55% fly ball rate. Can't strike anybody out. Gives up almost a 10% barrel. What could possibly go wrong? And this one, G. Rising, talk to me. Cubs at the Athletics in Sacramento.
Yeah, as you mentioned, Estes with that fly ball rate being pretty high, really low strikeout rate there. He does give up a lot more power to the left side. So, obviously Kyle Tucker is going to stand out. He's really jumping off for me. I think Tucker is probably one of the top bats here on the slate. Michael Busch. We all like some Busch. So I think we can throw some Busch in there if we're looking at the Cubs. I think the Cubs, I'm going to put them as we'll put them in the top 3 too, as far as my stacks. I think the Cubbies are someone to be looking at. I think too, what we might have to think about, you got to look for the little edges, I think, especially in baseball. And I think, with these 2 new stadiums, we're either going to get out in front of it and be on it and figure it out before everybody else does. It could potentially pay us off. We don't know. We could just assume it's going to be average for power, which would be an upgrade for Oakland, their home stadium. So, I think this one's definitely interesting. I'm going to be watching this here and just kind of just get a feel and a vibe. I mean, we might have to start jumping on some things early, especially some visiting teams in Oakland, because I think you're just going to get people that are just going to shy away. And I mean, the big news with these big bats, I mean, I think you're going to start seeing these torpedo bats and are going to be taking a lot of the press up. So, I mean, we still got to remember we got these 2 new parks. So I kind of want to watch how these play. I'm really interested in this Oakland one here. Oakland, I mean, they hit home runs themselves here, Ham. I mean, I think they're already 4th in MLB in home runs. Like, I mean, it's not like, we're talking about a team that can't hit themselves. I mean, if I was to stack up a game, I think this is the one that I might even look to stack up. I mean, just because we don't know what we could have as far as a park. But, I mean, Soderstrom, he's been hot. I mean, he came out the gate. I think he's got 3 or 4 homers already. Obviously, Baudet you could use, Langeliers. So I think the A's are sneaky, as I mentioned. I got them in my low-owned kind of bucket there that are definitely viable. But Cubbies are going to be up there. I think they're going to be used. I think Tucker's going to be very popular today. But, man, I think I'm going to be all eyes. I'm going to be watching this game here tonight. I just want to kind of check out the stadium here and see what it looks like. But, I mean, you remember in Oakland, they had them big-ass foul ball. I mean, everything was caught. I mean, so it's going to change quite a bit that we're going to get to see. And, we're going to have to remember, too, we're going to have to leave it at neutral, I guess, where before we obviously know it was a pitcher's park. But, yeah, Cubs definitely a top stack. I think A's are a sneaky stack.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. Excellent breakdown on that one. That no more. I feel like 20 yards on either first base or third base sideline. Last game of the night, we got my Braves struggling to start the year. G-Roz, and we need my man Acuna back. Taking on Glass now. Go ahead and lock and load Glass now. He's going to be super popular. High K rate, bad offense, you name it. He's got a heavy favorite. So slated to get the win, slated to get the quality start on FanDuel. Braves implied to score just over 3 runs. Then on the other side, Grant Holmes, you said it. He had some, I would say, up and down last year, but he does give up the long ball, especially to righties. He is a righty, but always Mookie. Is it going to be always Mookie tonight, G-Rise? And talk to me, Braves at the Dodgers.
That damn Mookie hit a walk-off homer against my Tigers the other day. I didn't know whether to cheer, to be mad, but I cheered for my man. He's been going through some shit. Looked like he don't even look right in his jersey. He's like he's a shadow of himself, and he's still out there hitting bombs. I mean, what'd they say? He got down to like 160 or something like that. I guess get the stomach bug, and he's still out there playing. I give him a little respect because I always kind of considered baseball players to be wussies. So, I mean, always looking for a reason to have a day off, and I don't blame him as long as the season as it is. But, man, Mookie got out there. As you all know, I always say you could always play Mookie. The Dodgers are going to be pretty popular. I mean, just looking at the homer, obviously the Yankees hit 15 homers in 3 stinking games, which is just stupid. I mean, like I said, maybe it's the Brewers suck. Brewers gave up 11 runs today. I mean, we might be on to something there. But, I mean, the Dodgers got 12 home runs themselves in 4 games. So let's not give up that. The Tigers bullpen is not bad at all. It's one of the better ones in all of baseball, and they still racked up a few. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting here to see, as the Dodgers move on, that $50 million stinking roster they have over there, Ham, which is unbelievable to me to begin with. But, yeah, I think Dodgers are going to be extremely chalky here today. Obviously, you're going to pay up for them. You start putting Mookie and Shohei in your lineup. Obviously, you've used up quite a bit of your salary. I think that's why you're going to see some of those teams I mentioned that are really cheap stacks, the Washingtons, the Oaklands, the Tigers. I think they're going to be viable because you may have to use them with your Dodger stacks. But, man, I think you could use any of the Dodgers really today against Atlanta and Grant Holmes here. But, I mean, Holmes was good. So I think this is a point. I think this game really has a lot to it, really, in reality, because you look at it, you got obviously the Dodgers are going to be the chalky bats. Glasnow is going to be the chalky pitcher. Holmes wasn't too bad. So do you fade the Dodgers tonight, which definitely, he could shut them down? Or do you want to play a very good Braves lineup against a chalky Glasnow who could get beat up? I think if you really are playing, a handful of MME teams, man, I wouldn't be shy of playing, a Brave stack here against Glasnow just because of how popular he's going to be. So, I mean, you look at this Braves lineup, it isn't too bad. I mean, it's even without Acuna, it still looks pretty good. So I'm not going to do it. I wouldn't fault you if you do it. It wouldn't surprise me to see the Braves go off, maybe even get some late runs. Everybody thinks baseball, you got to get run. You only need a inning or two. You need a good inning or two, and you can generally, your team can get there. So, I think this is an interesting game all the way around. It's going to have everything to do with this whole slate. It's however you play it right. Obviously, everybody chalky's going to go Dodgers bats and Glasnow. But I think you start mixing in some Braves. Maybe just go some Braves one-offs against Glasnow. But, man, I just think if you're not going to go Glasnow, maybe throw in a team with some Braves. You never know. I think that could work out today, Ham. What do you think? You think that's too crazy? Or, I mean, I'm just looking at the Braves being one of the better teams in baseball. I mean, it's not like Glasnow is, some just Cy Young winner. I mean, he's Glasnow.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think, over time, the Braves offense will turn it around. I mean, you still have Matt Olson, you still have Austin Riley, you still have Ozzie Albies. I don't think it's the craziest thing. I think it's more of like if you're building in the 5 to 10 team range, maybe have 1 or 2 Braves. And I would have those big boppers up there and just hope the Glasnow goes 3 innings and gets shelled and they get to that bullpen. So don't think it's the dumbest thing. Single entry 3 max, I probably wouldn't do it. But hey, if you did it, you got a good chance. It's just not for me tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I always like to talk about what the outlook of a slate looks like. When we had opening day, there was so many good pitching. There was hardly any bats. You were like just trying to figure out a way to force in a stack or some bats you liked. And here we got, here we are basically on the day 5 starters pretty much. So we're getting these teams, 4th and 5th pitchers to this point. So the Glasnow, Dodgers are so damn deep. They're throwing a guy Glasnow, cost 10-5 as their 4th and 5th starter. I mean, that's just how it is. I mean, I feel like we only got to fade really one guy that could really burn you with 10 or 12 Ks today. That could be Glasnow. I'm not saying he there's a chance he could do that. I don't see any other guy that could potentially do that today. So, I have been reading too, Glasnow could get topped out at 85 pitches, which does kind of make me feel a little bit better about fading him, but he still could get 8-9 Ks in 85 pitches, Ham. I mean, he definitely has the highest upside of anybody, but could he put up that 60 burger on FanDuel today? He could. Do I think he's gonna? Probably not. But, so that kind of helps me rethink, I could go to Rasmussen. If Rasmussen gets me in the, over 35, and I can get some better bats, that's what I'm thinking. So today, I think there isn't too many high-end pitchers that can burn us. And I think bats are pretty cool today. There's all kinds of different ways you can go, different ways you can look at it. I think there's all sorts of opportunities. We got a bunch of 8 games. We don't have any 7. We only have 1 7 game, that one being in Seattle. But we got a bunch of 8 games. So for this time of year, I think that's not bad. We usually get the 7.5. But, I think it's an overall interesting slate. I think there's a lot of options. I don't think today you got to really be too concerned about being overly different. I think there's a lot of different ways to be different today, especially with the bats. So, man, put in what you like. I mean, I think the Dodgers are going to probably be 30% probably stacks in your, mid-level tournaments. Bigger ones probably be a little bit lower. But, I think it's an interesting slate, Ham. I mean, I like it. Here we go. Right in the baseball, kind of can throw some strategy into it. I think I'm going to probably fade the Dodgers on the 3 teams I'm going to play on FanDuel. I'm going to probably fade them all 3 teams. Probably mix in some Cubbies, probably mix in some Toronto, and then probably mix in a couple of those maybe few end lower teams. Probably use some Glasnow going in for the higher end pitching. But man, if I want to struggle a little bit with I know I can drop down, say 2,500 from Glasnow down to Rasmussen, which is going to get me a couple nice bats. So really interesting way to build some teams today. So, hey, I think we can get after it. Hey, we're going to see some SHIPIT logos up at the top like we've been seeing. We've already been coming out the gate hot. And hey, isn't it nice to be part of a community that actually is able to show the members screenshots and winnings and not all the coordinators who play 150 teams and put out one cord, and then the team they win doesn't even freaking have anything to do with anything they talked about or anything they did. They just blanketed the shit. And then they're like, oh, yeah, I won 30K. Well, dude, you're putting out 6K at night. Like, let's do the math. Times 7, you're only sending once a week screenshot. Come on. So, really, really cool to see how everybody, just constantly winning here at SHIPIT. So, I mean, in all sports, Ham, if it isn't golf, it's MMA we're seeing shippers. If it isn't that, it's Rio is, directing the ship, and we got some NBA winners. I mean, what do we got going? It's like you're born on third base for DFS over here, as I like to say in Michigan. Born on third base if you become a part of SHIPIT.
Yeah, amen to that. Hey, certainly appreciate everybody tuning in. It's going to be a great night. We're going to see some logos up there at the top. Hopefully we see yours as well. For my man, G. Rising, I'm Ham. G. Rising, well, you'll be back tomorrow, correct?
You know what? I'm going to be here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And if you get sick of me, maybe I'll come back Thursday. Maybe not. But I'll probably be here all damn week. I told Ham Nades I'd fill in for him. My normal days are Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So, man, looking forward to it. Now, don't y'all remember, Kerry Carpenter.
Kerry Carpenter, home run call of the day from my guy, G. Rising. That'll do it for us. We're going to get on out of here, start building teams. For my man, G. Rising, I'm Ham. We'll see you at the top of the leaderboards. Let's ship it.